I'm Jillian Gray, and this is Up Close.
What's the Bahamas doing in the fight against COVID?
We're empowering Bahamians with free testing, free masks, and access to doctors for answers to your questions. Vaccines and boosters are saving lives. We have tighter restrictions at our borders, and we're expanding hospital capacity and hiring more nurses and doctors. We're taking on COVID while reopening schools and keeping our economy moving.
Together, we're moving forward.
Interviewing cabinet ministers is now a smoother process as OPM's press office has implemented a new system to organize and give the media better access for their interviews. Reporters expressed great relief as the new system brought structure to an archaic practice of reporters having to stake out the entrance of cabinet, hustling to speak with ministers. The media also noted that the smooth process of the new cabinet briefings held in the press room eliminates the difficulty of working in the elements on the outdoors. They now enjoy an air-conditioned room with chairs and proper lighting. We are happy to facilitate access to the media and the information they need to get their jobs done. Keeping you in the know, this is OPM Press Now.
Good morning, media colleagues and those joining us via the stream. It is a pleasure to welcome you to the Office of the Prime Minister's weekly press briefing. I know that it's been an eventful week and we have some updates for you and an exciting press briefing planned for you today. So without further ado, I will introduce Press Secretary Clint Watson.
Thank you, Jillian. Good morning, everybody. Those of you joining us, good morning, colleagues here in the room. We're indeed happy to have all of you here. I know it's an unusual time. We're used to 11 o'clock. I think some people may have got the times mixed up, but we're doing it earlier today due to a busy schedule ahead of us today. But we do have a couple of things to share with you that I'm going to get to in a few minutes regarding bringing you up to date on what's happening with your government in action. But of course, we want to begin today with bringing you some insight into the role of the Auditor General. I know every time there's some investigation or there's something that comes out regarding a ministry or sometimes even in the event of a new administration taking office, previous administration, people tend to view it as political. But so we wanted to bring the Auditor General in today to explain really the role of the Auditor General's office and what it is that they do, and also to take questions you may have on a number of their reports that have been out. And so we're so happy out of his very, very busy schedule, the Auditor General, Terrence Bastian, has consented to be here with us this morning just to give you a bit of understanding of the role of the Auditor General and, of course, to take questions that you may have on any recent reports. So without further ado, the Auditor General, Terrence Bastian.
Pleasant good morning. We want to know about the role of I call it the Office of the Auditor General, and that is set out for us in the Constitution. 136, Section 1 through 7 would have given the Auditor General instructions. And I think one says there should be an Auditor General. I don't have it in front of me, but there should be an Auditor General and his office. You know, some people sometimes says it's written Department of the Auditor General, but it's really, according to the Constitution, it's an office, which makes the office independent because it's a creature of the Constitution, and therefore it sets out the guidelines for the operation of the Office of the Auditor General. And therefore being independent, and that's always, some people feel it's not, and some people feel it is, but it is independent, and therefore the Auditor General will report to the Speaker of the House. Don't report to anyone else, and it cannot be directed by anyone else. in order to maintain the independence of the office. Therefore, we operate with such of instructions. That's how we operate. It is our job to provide assurance to Parliament and to the public that the public sector organizations are operating in accordance with the standards and the parameters set down and in which they should be following. This involves annual audits, it involves special audits, it involves engagements that may come to us from time to time. We should also provide independent insurance about local government and local authorities who are also accountable for spending public funds. Therefore, the Auditor General have the right to examine all books, all records, any information that was used in the execution of spending public funds. We also look at revenue collections to ensure that the revenue collected is brought to account in a timely manner, not only brought to account in a timely manner as collecting, but also deposited. It should deposit in a timely manner. So we have to do these things to ensure that the public funds are properly accounted for. So therefore, sometimes we have to speak with people who are responsible for doing these things to make sure and look at documentations to make sure they're properly documented and do what they say, follow the money. So we try our best. It's very important, the role of the Office of the Auditor General, to provide trust to the public, to know exactly how their funds are being spent. That is very important. So I would even take this opportunity to even thank the public who calls the office from time to time and try to give us information that they think is very important or some concerns that they may have. I'm encouraged by that because that means we have concerns, taxpayers who may see something and sometimes they call. Sometimes they write, they document and they say A, B, C, D, and E. Please check that out for us to ensure. So that gives some credence that there are some people who have confidence in the Office of the Auditor that we would look into it and do our best to report the facts as the facts is documented. You know, we have some very dedicated staff in the Office of the Auditor General, and I commend them for being focused on the task at hand and not being swayed either way they're risky. You know, there's always a chance, no matter what you do, that people will take your report politically. And I always tell them, I have never sent a report out of my office where I wrote it in color. It's always in black and white. It's the facts. And the facts are, when we send it out, we have the evidence to back up what we send out. Else we won't send it out. Okay? So that's the bottom line. So the Office of the Auditor General, in a summary, is to ensure that the public funds, the taxpayers' monies, are used for the intended purposes which it was collected. And so we try our best to do that on a daily basis. It is our job to audit each and every ministries, department, agencies that collect or use government funds for their operation. And we try our best to cover them. We might not get to do it every year because of our staff numbers, but as we continue to increase our staff numbers and the support of the government who allows us at times to outsource audit that helps us to get more done. We do our best to cover cover the country as best as possible. I don't know if you have any questions or that introduction is good enough to let you know what we do. Mr. Watson, you think we could go on from there? There's more that I can say, but I prefer to hear what the media may want to ask. I know they don't ask tough questions, so I'm sure I'd be able to answer any questions they may have.
Mr. Bastian, morning. Krishna Russell from the Tribune.
Very nice.
I know a while back it was said that there was a lack of resources in the Office of the Auditor General that impeded the work. Where are you with, acquiring the resources that you may need so that your work can continue? I know you hinted just now that there is a staff shortage, but far as the resources go, where are we? Are you still lacking those resources needed to do your work properly?
Well, I wouldn't end it like that. To do the work properly, doesn't matter what number we have. We do the work, we execute it to the best of our abilities and according to the standards. But I know what you mean. We can get more done if we have more numbers. Yes, we're still looking to increase our numbers and also at the same time implement updated software that will also help us in auditing more efficiently and more effectively. So human resource is also important, but also the resources of implementing certain software to upgrade the software we have to also help us. But it's difficult. The most difficult task is getting the human resources because you have to pay people to do that job, and that don't come cheaply. So we do it with what we have until we get more.
Mr. Bastian, I think that it was last year that there was a report tabled with some concerns of compliance from different ministries or persons in regards to information needed for the Auditor General to do their investigations. Has compliance improved among the ministries and public agencies?
Yes, compliance has improved, but like anything else, we don't have that perfection that we need. But it has improved, and we're getting better results. Might not be where we wanted to be, but it's improving.
What do you think needs to be? What else do you think, or what would you recommend that needs still to be done to help with compliance?
I think there's a word that's called accountability. A part of the role of the Auditor General is to ensure that we get good governance. That's going to trickle down to where I get to accountability. And good governance means that there must be transparency and accountability. Accountability would mean that if someone is responsible for doing something right, they're commended, and they're responsible for doing something that they shouldn't do, they get what they need to get. I think when we make people accountable, I still get perfect because people will be people. When we make people accountable, I think we get more results. So accountability, in that way, if there is a penalty, the penalty must be enforced.
Is there a penalty for the lack of accountability currently that the Auditor General is able to uphold?
But the Auditor General himself can only go so far and report. That comes then to the upper authorities to make sure whatever is set down is followed. We only could report the facts, and then the relevant authorities take it from there. It based on which audit it was and where it's going. The relevant authority could be the Permanent Secretary within the ministry where the report was done to, and then the public service ultimately who hire knows the things people should follow. So it depends on what the audit is and what the infraction was. If not reporting, who should call them in? I know we had a audit committee. Ministry of Finance had an audit committee whereby when we do a report, the report goes to the committee. The committee look at the reports and they need to call people to account for what they do, and then from there on, certain things can happen. And that probably happens sometime whereby if we do a report in the ministry, they would go through the report, they will call us, we discuss it, and then if they need to call Mr. A or Ms. B, C, they call them and find out what it is and determine if there's a penalty, should they be let go or whatever. That happens sometimes.
And that committee is still active?
I would suspect that committee, if it's not active, I didn't hear that it's not, they might not have done anything legally, but it was active the last time on some reports we would have done last year. This is 2022 now. 2021, yes.
Mr. Bastian, are there any plans to look into pandemic spending?
Yeah, that's a must. We are looking at it as I stand here. We've been requesting information from the beginning, such as we have some files in office now that we would have requested on the food program. So we are checking into, and it's our duty to make sure we know exactly how the money is spent. So we are looking at that.
So is there anything in particular with the food program that was a concern?
No, I don't have anything to report now that was a particular concern. We just want to make sure that everything is okay.
Sebastian, could you let us know if there are any other audits going on for other government agencies, and if so, which ones?
Yeah, we have some audits that we are doing. Currently, we finish up 3 audits. That would be the civil aviation, port, what's the next one, Thompson? Met Office, port, BTVI. We're also looking at some other customs that should be out today. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, too. Thank you.
Thank Mr. Terrence Bastian for taking time out of his schedule to come and give us an update on what it is his office is doing and why it is that they do what is being done. We appreciate that this morning. Okay, so I have a couple of announcements from Prime Minister for you this morning. Number of things that took place this week. A courtesy call with Belgium was placed on the Prime Minister today. Belgium's ambassador in the United States, along with a delegation from their government, paid a courtesy call to Prime Minister Philip Davis on Wednesday. The ambassador said that climate change remains the focus of any government of Belgium due to a high demand of its priority from its citizens. He also added that just like the European Union, Belgium remains committed to helping small islands like the Bahamas. Prime Minister Davis thanked them for their assistance with hurricane relief post-Dorian. He also noted that the Bahamas is paying close special attention now to its orange economy and its development. Ambassador for Belgium is hopeful that the relationship between Belgium and the Bahamas remains a fruitful one that benefits both economies. Also this week, BTC Deputy Chairman Valentine Grimes, along with members of the board, paid a courtesy call and had a meeting with Prime Minister Davis this week. Obviously discussed several matters surrounding the telecommunications company. The Grimes, also with board members Park O'Deal, Peter Cartwright, and Daphne Simmons, were recently appointed and have been doing site visits. Grimes and the board members discussed with the Prime Minister the possibility of having BTC's headquarters in the Bahamas. BTC recently released its 2021 full-year revenues. While the company's revenue is not at a pre-pandemic level, they are up $8 million from 2020, as revenue stands at $189.9 million. The government received a $24.5 million dividend payment in December from BTC. Grimes said they were happy to be a part of finalizing that payment, as it represents only the second payment to be received since 2016. Both dividend payments were received under the PLP administrations. Housing subdivision, we're happy to talk about the housing subdivision which opened in Abaco yesterday. The Prime Minister joined Housing Minister JoBeth Colby Davis in Abaco to open a new housing subdivision. The people of Abaco have been reeling from the effects of Hurricane Dorian for more than 2 years and are in desperate need of a permanent housing solution. In its assessment, the government found that only 5 of the 53 homes, or less than 10% of the homes planned for the subdivision, were completed under the previous administration. This administration is committed to ensuring that those in Abaco and Grand Bahama who have been suffering will get the help that is so badly needed. The government has partnered with local contractors who will lead the building of 48 homes in the Central Pines subdivision. As you know, public-private partnership is being used for these exercises. While we want it to happen swiftly, we also want it to be done properly and at a relatively low cost. The homes will be about $140,000. The government will create opportunity for local contractors through public-private partnerships while providing quality, affordable housing to dozens of families. Now, Prime Minister Davis said it's past time to prioritize rebuilding these communities ravaged by Dorian. He expressed confidence in the housing minister's ability to get the job done. Now, those wanting those homes can apply via the Ministry of Housing, also the Mortgage Corporation. They held a one-stop fair yesterday, one-stop shop. People can receive pre-approvals. People received pre-approvals for homes yesterday, and that will continue for the Central Pines Abaco subdivision. And many of you have heard by now, we can now officially release it. now that we've received notice from the palace. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge will visit the Bahamas on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen, occasion of the Platinum Jubilee. March 19th through the 26th is that celebration. Prince William and Duchess Kate will be in the Bahamas on March 24th to the 26th. This is the Duke and Duchess's first official visit to the Bahamas, and a number of exciting events have been planned for the two-day visit. And you'll be hearing more about that from the special committee that's responsible for organizing their visit. I'm sure that for those of you who follow the royals, it's an exciting time, no doubt, to have I think the most watched in the Bahamas royal wedding. People had their watch parties and their get-togethers for the Duke and Duchess, and now to have them here on Bahamian soil, I think will be a delightful treat. And so we look forward to their visit. And finally, Prime Minister Philip Davis and delegation will head to Belize for the 33rd Intersessional Meeting of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community. The CARICOM meeting, which will be held on March 1st and 2nd, will bring together regional leaders to discuss and deliberate a number of matters of great importance to the Caribbean community. Top of that list, of course, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic and what it's had on the region, and recommendations to expedite recovery of regional economies. Leaders will also discuss CARICOM's single market and economy aimed at building more resilient community, as well as the CARICOM Agri-Food Systems Agency, which emphasizes regional food and nutritional security. The Caribbean leaders are also expected to engage regional private sector, labor, and civil society and discuss climate change action following the recent COP26 held in Glasgow. Prime Minister Davis is looking forward to meeting with and discussing how regional partners and likewise the Bahamas can assist in solving the region's shared problems. We can tell you the Prime Minister is expected to make 2 interventions at Cabinet. We're preparing those now. A number of areas, particularly the Bahamas heads the subcommittee for tourism, and so we have to make an intervention there as to what's happening regionally with tourism, particularly in light of what's going on with Ukraine and any impact that could possibly have. And so we are preparing very diligently to make great representation. It'll be the Prime Minister's first appearance at CARICOM, and so we look forward to those discussions. And as you know, in the next 2 rotations, the Bahamas will be chairing CARICOM, and so this meeting will set the foundation for Prime Minister Davis to take over the chairmanship in about 2 rounds, which will probably be by the end of this calendar year. All right, those are our announcements. Any other questions we have, we can take those for you right now.
I know there has been some talk again about this travel visa program, and this morning the Deputy Prime Minister was asked whether or not Canoe was still being used by government, but he just said yes. We'd like to know, can you tell us in what capacity Canoe is still being used?
Well, thanks, Chanel. I thought you would have asked the Deputy Prime Minister since you had him answering the question. We don't know. I don't know. The Ministry of Tourism, who has carriage of that, is finalizing that. And once I think they would have made a definite decision as to how that will happen, it'll be shared, and we can share it with you. So we can get that for you for next week as to what role they'll continue to play. I think on that note, I think it's important to say that what we are trying to do in the Davis and Cooper administration is ensure that Bahamians are treated fairly, Bahamians are treated according to law. This is not a political thing. This is to ensure that businesses can still continue. A lot of people share concerns as to why certain people still have contracts, why this is going on. It's called business continuity. And there are guidelines to be followed, and those are being followed. And so in matters like that, there's always a reason why a particular company continues to have a contract. And in that particular case, we'll get that for you. Anybody else?
A few months ago, the Minister of Health had said that we were experiencing higher levels of children getting COVID. So where are we with getting the child doses of the vaccine? And then part B of the question, is there a plan to retain more nurses? We had the Bahamas Nurses Union president saying at least 60 nurses have left the system since, I think it was January. So where are we with that?
Thank you, Krishna. Very, very correct. Let's do the vaccines first for children. Still trying. It is one of the most difficult things that we are finding ourselves because, of course, of the demand. And those vaccines, obviously, the countries they're being manufactured in always look out for their country to make sure that they have supply first, and then they look to the other countries, and then they look to the smaller countries. And so what we are trying to do is we're continuing to source through all of our connections. It's also one of the agenda items at CARICOM, because the region is having the same kind of challenge. And so I suspect one of the things that will probably come out of CARICOM meeting is a regional block, moving forward and trying to get vaccines for the region and then distributing them regionally. Because, of course, the world always deals with greater numbers. And if you come together, perhaps our numbers together may be able to get some attention. The COVAX facility has been working, still trying to tell us they're still trying to source them. And so it's just a matter of wait and see. Thankfully, though, we've been able to manage cases here in the Bahamas and keep them at a minimal. And so that's allowing us to be able to get through this pandemic without these vaccines. But we still need to get them in hand for our children to secure them and their future. And we're working diligently for that. And hopefully, we hope to have some good news on that, if not coming out of CARICOM, with some other partners that we have been talking with regarding that. Regarding your Part B, as far as nurses, it's been from when I was covering the beat, it's been a challenge for decades trying to retain nurses. We simply cannot compete with what the bigger countries like the U.S. are offering nurses. They're offering them great deals, great packages, great opportunity. It's almost, and it's hard to keep and retain people when they're going for greater opportunities. Similar to what's happening in the media. People say the government is offering great packages to media personalities and they're leaving and going, and that may be the case. But of course, it's hard to retain when people are looking for greener pastures. Great analogy. Hey, I know to just slip it in there. But the reality is it's always very challenging. And you find that when nurses do stay, most of the time it is out of love for country and out of other ties that they're connected to why they stay. We are looking at it very, very sternly. One of the things we did because of the shortage in the pandemic is, of course, source nurses from Cuba who are working here, and I might add, are working well in the system. But that's not sustainable. And what we're doing is trying to find ways to what we need to do to keep nurses home. That's the first find. Second find is how do we incentivize people who are studying nursing to stay at home. These are things, nothing new here, no rocket science. This has been done by previous administrations, but it remains a challenging act. And the only thing we can do is try and find ways to make nurses feel comfortable to work at home and to stay at home. But at the end of the day, it's still an individual's personal decision as to whether they choose to leave and go elsewhere for their own personal opportunities. But we're working to make sure that we shore up, because while we're trying to find new facilities for healthcare and strengthen the system with NHI, National Health Insurance, which you'll hear about soon, we still have to shore it up with the personnel. And that always remains a challenge. And so if you're out there thinking about studying nursing, go ahead, do it. The government has always incentivized nursing by paying for the program for people studying nursing. And those are just some of the small things to incentivize people to go into nursing. But of course, a lot of these nurses graduate and they go off. So we're working into it. Yes, Jared, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. So you had kind of touched a bit on what my question is going to be there. I think you would have seen the Nassau Guardian wrote an editorial this week questioning whether the government is trying to gut the media. I wanted to give you a chance to respond to that, even as a former journalist, of course. What do you think about that as a question? Is the government trying to gut the media, make it less of a force to be reckoned with?
And I think I'll answer this for the Bahamian people, because I think if the Guardian wanted to know what we were doing, they would have called the government and asked. They didn't. They chose not to for whatever reason. But I think what I would say on this is this. Those who have come to work in the service of the government, I regard them all as professional people, highly qualified, highly skilled. I find it insulting that people would assume that they're being gutted when these professionals have to make decisions for their career lives, their goals. I find it insulting that we would think that they are being fished from somewhere rather than they are making decisions that they believe are in the best interest of their careers and their next level. And I think we do a disservice to our people when we insult the intelligence of our people to think that they're being swayed or motivated by some underlying factor rather than the fact that people make decisions for their life and their best interest, and they look for the opportunity to expand. Outside of careers, people have families. People have commitments. People have goals. And I would just think that anybody who makes a career move makes it because they're looking at what is my next in my life? What is my next goal in life? As for me, one of the main reasons why I accepted this job, and I always remind people of it, is when I sat on the desk every night and I heard people call me with their problems, I heard people call me with their challenges, I got tired of telling this story and not being a part of the change that needed to happen in our country. So when this opportunity came, I made a commitment that I would use the opportunity to help the Bahamian people, to be able to provide answers for them that they couldn't get answers to. I cannot tell you, because we don't talk about it every day here, the amount of people every day that I spend taking their phone calls, and they said, Mr. Watson, I can't get this done. Mr. Watson, I tried getting this service done. It didn't happen. And my team and I, we find solutions and get people solved, get the answers to their problems solved, and they walk away feeling happier. We're doing that every day. People are hurting. People are looking for opportunities, and we're trying our best to find the solutions and answers for them. That, Jared, for me, is what allows me every day to come back to this office every morning when I see that what I set out to do, we're able to do. Yes, I'm the press secretary. Yes, I'm trying to make it better for the media, but that's only one part of my job. The other part of my job is making sure that people who have serious concerns in this country, serious issues in this country, can get answers. And we're doing that here. We're doing that in the Davis administration. And people may not write about it, they may not know what's going on, but that is one of the motivating factors why I took this job. It was disingenuous to see people try and label your work as being something of an agenda to try and get a job. That's absolutely not true. And I'm grateful that my legacy can't be erased by somebody's pen. My legacy stands for itself by the people who are impacted by the ability for me to help them, whether on that desk or whether behind this podium. I'm able to help people, and that is what establishes my legacy. That's why I'm not bothered by the noise in the market, because if you knew what we are doing here, if you know what we are doing and where we're going, and how we're trying to create opportunities for all of these media personnel in here who for years have not had opportunity, then you'd understand that we're working hard to make change in this country, and we're not distracted. We remain focused on that.
And just as a follow-up then, so of course, media personnel, yourself, everyone else, will have to make decisions, that are in their best interest, of course. What do you say to someone who might suggest that government is leveraging its ability to hire people at nice, attractive salaries in order to, again, reduce the media's maybe capacity to hold government accountable?
If government is leveraging its ability, it's because it wants to have the best. Good move for any administration. It's your tax dollars. You want to know that there are the professionals, the best people who are working on your behalf. We don't complain when other companies, private sectors, leverage people or offer competitive packages to try and get the best. It's what's called the business world. That's how people are able to advance, by being able to attract people. And so the government would like to attract people. But I'll tell you, you'd be surprised if you talk to individuals, you find that many of them are too ecstatic to get out of where they came from because they're looking for opportunities. And if we can be a helping hand to help somebody out of a bad situation, we're happy to do that. Anybody else? Any other questions? Yes.
I believe it was last week you mentioned that the government was in talks with Saudi Arabia to try and procure oil from them. In the wake of the Russia-Ukraine crisis and I believe it was Minister Fred Mitchell who said that gas prices could probably hit $8 at some point. Is there any plans to try and expedite that deal to try and at least keep gas prices down here?
Tyler, thank you for that question. Boy, if I could take a bicycle and go there and to Saudi Arabia and just start talking now, I'll do it. Because nobody want to face that. And the answer obviously will be, we're going to fast track any opportunity that we can find to be able to buffer what could possibly be happening in our country. I think it's unconscionable to imagine $8 at the pump. And so we're going to do what we can as an administration to ensure that Bahamians hopefully never have to realize that. I think what you would have heard from the minister would have been what the possibilities of what could happen We don't want it to happen. I know if we have a part to play in it, we will do what we can. I saw there are people who criticized when the Minister of Foreign Affairs issued a statement, and that's not unusual for people who don't understand what's happening in foreign affairs. That's normal, particularly when you are part of the United Nations. You're required to take certain stands and positions as a country and to make your case public and known. So it's not the Bahamas getting in somebody else's business. And on the other hand, it is our business, because what happens there will affect every one of your pockets. And so it is important for the Bahamas to make its stance clear so that if we can do our part in preventing anything from happening, we're a part of a global community that wants to do that, so that no one has to experience more hardships at a very difficult time already. And so whatever position we can take as a voting bloc in CARICOM and the United Nations to support what the Secretary General of the UN has said, which we're doing, we are doing that, because at the end of the day, it will impact all of us. For many people, they can't fathom why we would get involved in Ukraine, but if you understand the global system, it impacts us. You just mentioned one way it could impact us. And that's why we're speaking up, because we don't want that to happen to our people. So we will do whatever we need to do, Tyler, to ensure that we can safeguard our people from any other unnecessary rises. And when we determine that route, we will make it public so people are aware what we're working on. Yes. Anyone else?
Is there a timeline yet for the livable wage legislation?
No timeline yet. It is in the workings. We're working on it happening. No time frame has been set. As soon as it is, we will let people know. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, colleagues. Let's get to our final segment, which I believe is one of the most enjoyable segments, and that is a highlight on Bahamian food businesses. And today we're highlighting two businesses, Quenchers and Hydrate Purified Water, Mr. Lyndon Wallace, and of course, Manzana. Nashika Newton is coming to talk about that. So come on up, Nashika, and talk about Manzana, and you should be followed by Lyndon from Quenchers and Hydrate Purified Water.
Good morning. Greetings to everyone. Greetings to each and every one of you in your respectable places. I am grateful to have an amazing opportunity today. I am thankful to God, and I am thankful to the Office of the Prime Minister and his team for making this moment possible. Your efforts to showcase small businesses and entrepreneurs like me are gratefully appreciated. Manzana was established in the midst of the pandemic in October 2020. After working for so many years for someone else and depending solely on another party for income, I decided to start something on my own. In Spanish, Manzana means apple. The reason I chose the name Manzana is because it reminds me that I am the apples of God's eyes, and He has me and my business covered. Manzana offers freshly made ordered meals, sandwiches, salads, and pastas, and is the home of our special made signature dressing, Manzana dressing. May God continue to bless each and every one of you that take hand in this organization and event, and may God bless the organization and the administration. Thank you all.
Tell them where we can find you and tell them what we have.
Yes. Today we have crab salad, pastas, we have sandwiches, we have tuna salad, we have my very own special made Manzana salad, and also I'm located on Soldier Road, and you can reach me at 821-0681.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Good morning, all. Once again, I'd like to thank you for having me. Like you said earlier, the name of my business is called Quenchers and Hydrate Water Company, purified water branched off from Quenchers, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. Growing up, I was always interested in entrepreneurship. It has been a passion of mine since I knew what the word entrepreneur meant. And that has just driven me to do multiple things throughout my life. Starting Quenchers at the age of 18 years old, I'd say I started with about $300. I had no money. I just managed to put together some funds to get some graphics done and very few ingredients. And, I was just playing around with it, selling juices with my aunt. She sold food, and I sold it with her food. And I started to brand it and build social media presence. And that started to grow tremendously until it became, I'd say, a household name. And, I started to build a lot of attention on Twitter and, things of that sort. And then I'd say 2 years later, the pandemic came along and kind of put a huge dent into my business because, a lot of the restaurants, a lot of the stores, everything was closing down. And that really played that put a big toll on, my pockets and, my way of life. That was what I woke up and did every day. So it was a bit depressing as well. And, I came up with an idea that, I could branch off and sell water as well. I saw the lines, Chelsea's Choice, Acupure, the major water companies, and I'm saying these people are waiting 6, 7, 8 hours to get their water. That just shows the importance of, what water is to us, what is life, what is everything. We're made up of, I'd say, 75% water. So I just ran with the idea, and that's when I started Hydrate, and I realized that, because of the social media presence and the accountability that I had built with Quenchers, it wasn't hard to branch off from Hydrate. And if there's any young people out there, even older people out there with ideas and things that they're thinking of, I would definitely encourage you to do so. Just get started. It only takes one idea to separate you from whatever it is that you're doing right now. And I'd just like to say, keep trying whatever it is, because at the end of the day, you're going to have your ups and you're going to have your downs, but you just got to remember what the end goal is. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're happy to highlight these businesses, and we encourage all of you who are watching to please support them and to go out and buy Bahamian. That's our presser for this week. Please stay safe. Thank you all for joining us. Good afternoon.